First of all, I think that it's really great that a lot of people are interested enough in the situation in the country and the problems they see in the country to go out and do something about it besides just talking about it. So, and that's always good, because in any political system, if you're going to hold people who are ruling us accountable, then we have to have participation. It doesn't happen on its own. And the more actively involved the average citizen is in questioning and discussing the policy issues being taken place, the better it is for any society, including ours. So in that sense, I think it's really great in the sense that they're, for the first time, it seems, after a long time, a large number of people are concerned enough about the situation around them to try and do something about it. So in that sense, I think it's a positive development. And I think that these are kind of things, especially for people who are younger, starting off in their early adult life, these kind of things can be really life-changing experiences. That they learn, and then from that they get more involved. They might become people who are involved in political issues or issues concerning us over their entire lifetime.
I think it's a great expression of popular discontent. That's the first thing that would come to mind. I mean, especially when you're thinking about how the national Occupy movement ties in with the international developments, and then at the same time having an Atlanta Occupy movement, is just, to me, incredibly reinforcing. This idea that there is this popular upswell, that there's something seriously wrong with the way the world is structured right now, specifically, of course, in our context, the way the US is structured, but how that fits in with the global message. So I think incredibly powerful, incredibly important.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's really hard. I don't want to say that it can't unequivocally, but it presents challenges, right? There's not a lot of organization. They have a hard time, for example, again, we keep coming back to the same point, choosing a particular agenda item that they want to focus on. And so it means that there's no politician in the country who can say, if I don't do X, the Occupy folks are going to vote me out of office.
Yeah.
Right? Because they don't know what X is. Even members of the Occupy movement don't necessarily know what X is.
What, of course, happens is in a diverse movement like the Occupy movements have been, there are people there for different reasons. And some people are concerned about the economic issues, some people are concerned about policy issues. So there's bound to be some debate and discussion about what the priority should be, where the main focus should be. So in that context, some kind of leadership has to emerge if things are not going to kind of just, dissolve away over time as people get disenchanted or just say, okay, this isn't working, I'm going to walk away from it. But the kind of leadership which emerges, of course, is crucial. Are we going to have a leadership? Because if the Occupy movement, from my understanding of it, one of its main goals is to argue that those who are in positions of power, who have been put in positions of power, people should be accountable to them. That they should be able to answer questions that people have about their policies and so on. So obviously, the movement itself has to have a similar kind of leadership, right? It can't have a dictatorial leadership or a leadership which is based on a small clique of people running it and so on. It has to be it has to be as open as it wants our government to be and our society to be. So the nature of the leadership, of course, is crucial. Both what kind of individuals get into leadership positions and what are the mechanisms which are developed to handle this issue of leadership. So now, this is not an easy thing to do with a movement like this, because, as I said, there are certain kinds of people who are attracted to these movements enough to participate in them. They're usually people with very strong opinions. They're very passionate about what they think is important, and so for them, this is a big deal. And many of the people who have that view find it very difficult to, in effect, delegate some of the power to people who are saying, well, we can organize this better, and so on and so forth. So it's a real challenge, but it's doable. It's doable as long as the goals are very simple. doable. But if the goals become more complicated, it becomes more difficult for leadership, effective leadership to emerge.
I think that's the strength of the movement, that it's leader. But unfortunately, it's also its people. And so this is where often, I'm just remembering some of the news coverage, whether it's the local news coverage or I remember more of the national news coverage, sort of looking for what's the message, what do they want. And I think part of the strength of the movement is that it manages to show all the connections. It's not one specific message that targets one social issue, but actually shows that there is a thread that runs through the movement that makes all these connections between global developments, whether they're economic or political, and then ties them to social developments. That makes it powerful. But often, whether it's people in general, or whether you want to specifically focus on policymakers or the media, prefer to have a nice, sexy topic, something where you can say, this is what they want. And in order to have a message that actually reverberates with people, that actually gets them involved, that gets them passionate about it, sometimes it helps having one key issue and, sort of a charismatic leadership that pushes it forward. I'm glad we don't have that, because I think that would be counterproductive for the overall purposes of the movement. But I do think that is part of why it seems to be petering out a little, why people seem to have lost interest, why you might get people thinking now, well, they've done their protest, let's get on with it. And that happens often in response to, well, I don't know what they want, therefore their message must go.
Right.
It's either or yes, both kind of an answer. I think it's a strength and it's a weakness that there isn't a leader. I think it should maintain that because it really utilizes people skills, grassroots development. But it doesn't help people who are looking for a simple answer to complex problems.
I find it difficult to envisage how the goals that the movement has can be achieved unless there is some level of organization. Right? Because it's important to understand that if you're going to take on the system, as it is called, then the system is organized. It has mechanisms of dealing with protests and so on. And if the movement itself is not organized, then it's just a bunch of individuals going up against the system, rather than a group of people going up against the system, which is where the Occupy movement's power comes from. There are a large number of individuals who are saying, no, we think this is important, this needs to be dealt with. Now, whether one agrees with what their goals are or not is not the issue here. I'm talking about how effective they can be and what it takes for especially ordinary citizens to be effective in a political system like we have here in our country.
It has the potential to. I'm not seeing the Occupy movement as a huge electoral threat. If it is, it might have a similar effect that the Tea Party did. One of the major effects of the Tea Party is it took the Republican Party and dragged it to the right. Mm-hmm. And it's possible that the Occupy movement, if it's still active and commanding a large number of followers in November, and also through the primary election season, could do a similar thing to the Democratic Party and force Democrats to nominate a large number of more liberal candidates. Mm-hmm.